Red Beach, Hell Unleashed. Part 1. The Red Shore. June 6th, 1944, 5:30 hours. Off the coast of Normandy. The sea was angry that morning. The Higgins boat rocked violently, its steel hull clanging with every crashing wave. A heavy mist clung to the water like a corpse's breath. 30 men, soaked and shivering, stood shoulder to shoulder in that rusted coffin. The salt stung their eyes, but it wasn't the sea that made them weep. It was what lay ahead. Omaha Beach. Sector code name, Dog Red. The heart of hell. Private First Class Raymond Burke clutched his rifle like a crucifix, knuckles white, lips whispering the same prayer over and over. Lord, if you take me today, don't take me screaming. He wasn't the only one praying. Sergeant Keller barked over the roar of the engine. Eyes forward. When that ramp drops, move like the devil's at your heels. Because he damn well is. They could hear it now. The thunder of artillery. The rattling snarl of MG-42s perched like vultures in the cliffs ahead. The surf turned red before they even touched land. Bodies floated in the shallows. Faceless, limbless, already forgotten. And then the ramp dropped. The world erupted. Bullets tore through the boat like paper. The first 3 men were cut down instantly, their screams drowned in blood. Burke saw a face he knew, Tommy LeClaire, his jaw gone, eyes wide with confusion as he fell backward into the sea. Chaos. Fire. Screams. Men charged into the surf only to be shredded by hot lead. Legs blown off. Entrails spilling into the water. The beach was a meat grinder. Burke ran. He ran like everything holy had abandoned them. He dove behind a Czech hedgehog, heart slamming in his chest. The smell hit him then, not just smoke and salt, but rot. Something deeper, older, wrong. The others joined him. Keller, Davies, Juno, a few others. Maybe 10 out of 30. Maybe less. Fucking Christ, Davies gasped, clutching his bleeding side. This ain't no beach. It's a slaughterhouse. And yet something was off. No muzzle flashes from the bunkers. The machine guns had stopped. No mortars. No movement. Just silence. Burke peeked over the hedgehog. Smoke hung heavy in the air. The cliffs loomed, jagged teeth against the dead sky. But no Germans. No snipers. No return fire. Only the bodies. Too many bodies. Some were American. Most were not. Where are the Krauts? Keller hissed. They had us pinned 5 minutes ago. No one answered. Because something else answered for them. A sound. Low. Guttural. Like a chorus of voices moaning underwater. Then a twitch. One of the German corpses 30 feet away began to move. Its limbs jerked awkwardly, as if strings pulled them. The head lolled to one side, face half burned, eyes white and glassy. Burke watched in frozen terror as it pushed itself to its knees. And screamed. Not a human scream. A scream like metal on bone, like lungs full of sand and fire. Then others began to rise. Not all. Just some. Just enough. The dead Germans stood, backs arched, jaws slack. Blood ran in reverse from the sand into their mouths. One dragged his broken leg behind him like a dog. Sergeant Keller didn't hesitate. He opened fire. Bullets tore through the nearest one. Its chest burst open in a red mist. It kept walking. Burke screamed, emptying his M1 into its skull. Finally it dropped, but the others came on. Davies tried to run and was dragged into the surf by 2 of them. They didn't bite. They tore. Hands like claws, they ripped him apart, his screams gurgling into the tide. Fall back, Keller shouted. To the cliff. Move. They ran. The remaining soldiers, Burke, Keller, Juno, Simmons, and maybe 2 others, scrambled over sand and blood toward the rocks. The beach echoed with inhuman cries. Burke turned once, just once, and saw something worse. Farther up the beach, a figure in a black SS officer's coat. Unmoving, watching. Its eyes glowed red beneath the helmet. And it smiled. Part 2. Swarms and Silence. The cliffs were not salvation. They were a tomb waiting to close. Burke's legs burned as he climbed, boots slipping in sand and blood. Behind him, the shrieking of the dead echoed like wind through a graveyard. But worse than the screams was the silence between them. Too still, too deliberate, as if something ancient listened. Keller was the first to reach the ridge. He pulled Burke up by the strap of his rifle and dragged him behind a shattered bunker wall. "Sound off," Keller rasped. "Who's left?" Juno coughed up blood. "Here, barely." Simmons muttered a prayer, hands shaking. Another soldier, Jackson, had a jagged piece of shrapnel in his shoulder. They were 5 now, from 30. Burke peeked over the ridge. The beach below had transformed. The waves rolled red. Corpses twitched unnaturally, spasming as if possessed. And in the far distance, where the black-coated figure had stood, there was nothing. Just sand and silence. No wind. No buzz. No more gunfire. The war had stopped, but death hadn't. "We head inland," Keller said. "Command was supposed to rendezvous in the next sector. This beach is cursed." Juno snorted. "Cursed? That's what you're going with." "Shut up and move," Keller growled. They moved. Through abandoned German trenches, empty, rotting. Through craters filled with bones. Through silence thicker than fog. And the smell followed them. Like burnt meat soaked in bile. Burke felt it in his teeth. In his lungs. Then they found the first pit. It was hidden behind a scorched hedgerow. A wide trench, maybe 10 feet deep and filled with bodies. Hundreds. Stacked like firewood. Uniforms torn, flesh blackened. German, American, French, no difference. All fused together, as if burned into each other. Simmons dropped to his knees and vomited. "They're not shot," he whispered. "They're melted." Juno leaned closer. "What the hell did this?" One of the corpses turned its head. Simmons screamed, fell backward, and shot it point blank in the skull. The rest remained still for now. "What the fuck is going on here?" Juno gasped. "I don't know," Keller muttered. "But this isn't war. This is something else." They kept moving. Deeper. The trees thickened. The sky darkened, though it wasn't even noon. Time began to blur. Minutes felt like hours. Simmons claimed he saw someone following them. A man with no face, but no one else saw anything. Then came the whispers. Not in English. Not in German. Just wrong. Disjointed syllables that vibrated in the bones. Juno dropped his helmet and screamed, clutching his ears. "They're in my head," he howled. "They're crawling inside my skull." He raised his rifle to his own temple. Keller slapped it away, but Juno was already laughing. Laughing through tears. "It's a test. A game. We're the rats. We're the meat." They dragged him along. But he kept whispering nonsense. Then the fog came. Heavy. Oily. It rolled in unnaturally fast, blinding, choking. Visibility dropped 2 inches. That's when the swarm hit. A sound like buzzing. Not insects. Teeth. Thousands of them. Burke screamed as something ripped at his leg. Tiny humanoid figures, childlike, skinless, crawled from the mist. Dozens. Hundreds. Some had no eyes. Others had too many. All with mouths, sharp and gnashing. Jackson went down first. They covered him, pulling him apart like jackals. His scream turned wet. Simmons shot wildly, hitting nothing. He tripped over a root and fell into the swarm. Keller grabbed Burke and Juno. "Run!" They ran. They didn't look back. Not at the swarming things. Not at Simmons' scream. Not at what came next. The fog thinned near a ridge. They found shelter in the ruins of a stone chapel. The air was dry there. The swarm didn't follow. Burke collapsed, panting, leg torn but intact. Juno rocked back and forth, his eyes distant. Keller closed the chapel door and slid the bolt. His hands were shaking. "We hold here. Just for now." Burke looked up at the altar. Behind it, a symbol carved into the stone. Not Christian, not even human. A spiral inside a jagged eye. Fresh blood oozed from the lines. Burke stepped closer. At its center was something buried in the stone. Like bone, like a face. Still alive. It whispered. Part 3, the underworld below. The whisper came not as a sound, but as a sickness in the blood. Burke stumbled back from the altar, clutching his ears though the voice wasn't heard. It was felt. Inside the bones. It throbbed behind his eyes and curled around his spine like a wet serpent. "Kill me," it said. "Free me, or feed me." The stone split. Cracks slithered across the chapel floor like veins. Blood seeped through the seams, not pooling, rising. The spiral symbol glowed a dull, infected red. Behind him, Juno was laughing again, this time louder, manic. "I see it now," he crooned. "I see what they buried, what they fed with war." Keller dragged them both away from the altar toward a set of stairs half hidden behind a collapsed wall. He didn't speak. His jaw was clenched, his knuckles white around his rifle. They descended, deeper into the chapel's guts. Each step down felt colder than the last. The walls pulsed faintly, stone that breathed. The air grew thick with the scent of rot and iron. Burke's flashlight flickered as the stairwell twisted, spiraling like a corkscrew into the abyss. At the bottom, a massive steel door. Old, German, sealed with a strange lock, and etched with more of those spiraling symbols. It was already open. Inside lay a corridor, narrow, metallic, suffocating. Lights buzzed overhead. German signs on the walls. Versich Slaber. Nicht öffnen. Verlerine Zone. Test Lab. Do not open. Lost Zone. What the fuck is this place? Burke muttered. Keller didn't answer. They passed glass chambers, some shattered, some intact. Inside were things that once may have been human. Limbs on the wrong sides. Eyes stitched shut. Mouths missing. One chamber held a fetus the size of dog, its skin translucent, twitching despite no heartbeat. Juno stared at it, smiling. Still dreaming, he whispered, "It's still dreaming." Then came the recordings. In a control room, reels of German film ticked in an old projector. Keller, against better judgment, played one. The screen flickered to life. Black and white. A Nazi scientist stood beside a bound, screaming prisoner. Behind them, carved into the wall, the spiral. Painted in blood. The scientist spoke, monotone. Subject 14 exposed to artifact 17. Time distortion began 12 seconds post-contact. Subject's speech patterns reversed. Subject expired. Reanimated at 2:17. Now shows resistance to death. The footage cut to the same prisoner. Eyes black, mouth dislocated, flesh bulging from within. He was still alive, still screaming, but inward. A silent howl through eyes and skin. Burke smashed the projector. "I've seen enough," he gasped. We're leaving. We're leaving now." But the complex went deeper. They found another chamber, this one lined with chains, cages, and walls inscribed with unfamiliar runes. In the center, a pit. A bottomless one. Juno walked to its edge, arms open. "This is where it came from," he whispered. "Not a god, not a demon. Something older. The war woke it up." He leaned forward. Burke grabbed him just in time. But Juno screamed. Not in fear, in ecstasy. "It showed me. What comes next? The blood tide. The skin harvest. The world of bone." Keller slammed him against the wall. "Shut the fuck up." But it was too late. From the pit came a pulse. Like sonar, but made of agony. The walls bled. Lights exploded. The steel groaned. Then they came. Not the small, swarming things from before. These were tall, thin, bone-white silhouettes, moving without sound. faces blank, eyes like empty sockets filled with stars. Their movements jerky, unnatural, like film sped up and reversed at once. Burke fired. The bullets passed through them. One touched Juno's head. He stopped screaming. He simply froze, and then split. Not exploded, peeled. Skin first, then muscle, unraveling like wet paper. No blood, just steam and the smell of sulfur. Keller grabbed Burke. Run! They ran, sprinting back through the corridors, past the failed experiments that now twitched in their tanks, past the whispering walls and the spiral sigils now burning red-hot. Back up the stairs. But the chapel was gone. Where once stood a stone sanctuary, there was now only a vast crater. In its center, the altar floated above the void, and below it, something moved. Burke fell to his knees, because he recognized it. The beach, the deaths, the screaming sea, all of it part of this. The ritual, the sacrifice. The war itself wasn't a cause. It was a summoning. Keller stood tall, aimed his rifle at the void, and screamed, "Come on, you bastard!" The darkness answered. Part 4, No Man's Land. The void answered with light, but not the light of heaven. It was a pulse, a rupture in the air, a color Burke could not name, something that twisted the space around it, living light, wet and hungry. Keller fired into it anyway. Useless. The altar cracked, the spiral split wide, and something stepped through. Not walked, not emerged, just was there all at once. It wore no skin, yet bled from every inch. Its limbs unfolded in wrong directions. Its face was a mass of jaws, dozens, all chewing, never stopping. Its eyes, if they were eyes, were windows into a place below sanity. Burke couldn't scream. His lungs wouldn't obey. Keller raised his last grenade. "You don't win," he whispered. "Not today." He charged. Burke didn't see the explosion, only the absence, as if the world hiccuped and Keller was gone. The creature reeled, not injured, just interested. It turned to Burke, and it spoke. "You are the last." Not in English, not in sound, in thought. The words poured into Burke like acid. "You have seen beyond the veil. You have touched the tide. You are now mine." Burke crawled backward, slipped, fell into the crater, hit rock, screamed. Something cracked in his chest, and the voice followed him. "Do not fear. You are not ending. You are becoming." Below, the beach returned, but it was twisted. The bodies of the fallen were rising, jerking, twitching, rebuilding themselves. German, American, French, all the same now. Their faces were wrong, stretched into permanent masks of agony. Their uniforms fused to their flesh. They marched in silence. Toward the sea, the tide pulled red. From the waves rose ships, old, rusted, draped in flags that had no nation. Their decks were covered in bone, and at their helms stood creatures with hollow faces and long, grasping hands. The new war had begun, and it wasn't between men. Burke crawled through the mud, past the ruins of the chapel, past the melted bones of Juno and Keller. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he had to run. But the land kept shifting. Trenches opened and closed like mouths. The air sang with distant cries, some German, some English, some not human at all. He stumbled through the black forest that had once been the French countryside. And then a voice, a real one, radio static. "Hello, Allied command to any surviving units. Respond." I repeat, respond. Burke tore the headset from shattered comms pack and screamed into it. "This is Private Burke. Red Beach is compromised. They opened something. They opened." The static cut. Then a new voice. Calm, cold, female. "Private Burke. This is command. We know. Evac not possible. Contain the breach. God help you." The signal ended. Burke dropped the radio. The message wasn't to save him. It was to keep it from escaping. He was never meant to come back. His orders were clear now. Die here, but do not die quiet. The next days blurred. He set charges, lured what creatures he could into the tunnels below, fought with knife, rifle, shovel, rock, whatever he could find. He saw Simmons in a dream, his face hollowed out. He saw Keller smiling, holding the pin of a grenade like a medal. He no longer knew what was real. The blood didn't wash off anymore. The spiral was carved into his palms. On the seventh day, he saw the ships coming closer, the sky torn open above them, and he knew it was time. He climbed to the top of the ridge again, where it all began. Lit his last flare. The sea of corpses turned to him. The thing from the altar watched. Burke opened the detonator box. He smiled, spat blood, whispered, "This beach belongs to no god," and pressed the trigger. Static. Then silence. Epilogue. Black files // top secret / eyes only. Report. Operation Furnace. Date. August 1944. Retrieved from Red Beach Zone, Sector 13. No survivors. No remains. The soil still burns. Recommandation. Permanent quarantine. Subject artifacts relocated to Site 9. Spiral presence stable. For now. End file.